All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Pro Tips for Improved EBS Data Management, Integrating External Data Resources for Your Uploads. I am Stephanie, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Since this is a quick webinar, I'm just going to go over a few things quickly before handing it over to our host, David Wright. So everyone will receive today's recording by the end of the week. And after David presents, we will begin our Q&A portion. During the session, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat. We will also only answer them during the Q&A part, just so we can get through the presentation and just in case people need to hop off at the end. So now a little bit about David. So David is More4Apps' Global Solutions Specialist Manager. David joined the More4Apps team in 2005 when he returned to New Zealand after spending time working in Europe and the USA. He manages the solution specialist team and assists the product development, support, and marketing teams. David enjoys the variation in his day-to-day roles with the ability to deal with people from all over the world. With a real commitment to the Oracle ERP space, he is currently the co-chair of the OATUG Editorial Advisory Committee. And also, David has the honor of closing out our End User Education Day. And don't worry about not making previous sessions because we'll be sending all the recordings anyway. And after helping Oracle users for 25 years, this was an exciting event to host for our users and those who just wanted to learn some more. Leveraging our Oracle expertise, we focus on solving data problems for users, working with Oracle EBS and Fusion Cloud ERP. Our mission has always been and continues to be removing the friction and complexities within your ERP data processes. And in this session, David will dive a little bit deeper into how you can continue to remove that friction by efficiently managing your data prior to uploads. So let's just get to what we're here for. So David, take it away.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. As she said, I'm David Wright. I've been with More4Apps for quite a while now. I actually didn't realize it was 2005, but that sounds about right. I'm an ex-EBS consultant. Obviously been doing a lot of cloud work as well because we're in the cloud, for those of you that are thinking of moving to that area. But today I'm just going to talk about external data sources for your uploads. And this one sort of piqued my interest as an idea because I was playing around with Excel a few weeks ago and found some new features that I hadn't played with before, as well as just having a think about how we can get data into our spreadsheets. And it's a common thing that's asked of us, how do we get data in? So just kicking things off, data is the core of your business, and without the right tools in place, your risk inefficiencies and accuracies, dependencies on other resources all the time. That's i.e. getting IT involved. And it's really the lifeblood of your organization. And with the More4Apps and dealing with the data, it's really around that extraction, the transformation, and the loading of the data. So we start with saying, well, where's the data coming from? You need to think about that. Then how do I get to the data? So what is the source? How can I connect to it? And then what's the process of retrieving that data? So with those three parts there, that could be either within your wizard or loader as an example with our standard download functionality, or in the case of what we're talking about today, a lot of it is, well, actually, what if the data isn't readily available in my More4Apps product? Then, of course, once you've grabbed your data, you need to think about the transformation. How do I get that data from the format that I've been given or that I can get and get into a format that works for More4Apps? So it's really around that transformation or manipulation of the data. And then once you get past that stage, of course, we need to think about validating the data. So it's essential that the extracted data is accurate and consistent. And so with More4Apps, you're in a lucky place because the loading side we've sorted out for you. It's really that other part that can make life a bit difficult for people. And it's that sort of side of things that I want to look at today and just give a couple of ideas on what you could use potentially in order to get data from other sources. But before we go too far, we'll just do a quick little poll, and we want to know, what download options do you use with your More4Apps products? So there's the standard download feature within the product itself. You've got the custom query. If you've not seen that, I'll give a quick brief of that today as well. Other BI or SQL query tools, external systems, or you're not quite sure. Okay, you don't use any, or you just use the standard ones.
Yeah, we'll
that
give
come
it a
out.
couple seconds to answer. Go ahead. If you see it on your screen, or if you don't see it, you can put it in the chat too. But it looks like standard download feature within the product and also just none or not sure. A custom query, okay.
Okay,
It
so
looks like everywhere, everything.
yeah. So it's quite good to see the custom query being used there because that is something that when people find out about it, they really like it. So yeah, we're basically getting a bit of a split from what I can see between standard download, custom query, and for some, they're not quite sure what's being used at this stage. So just to pull things back into the more for apps space a little bit, with our products, it's all about, with our products, it's all about the download, the validate the data, the upload the data and back into Oracle, then download again. So this is basically our standard approach where you download, create, recreate, update, and you get your feedback when you do your load with more for apps back into the product as well as part of that upload. So it's nice having that feedback. Now, that's great when the data is all within your EBS instance. However, if we're dealing with a situation where you want data from other sources, it's not quite the same. You sort of need to get that data into that Excel format from these other sources. So it could be an image, it could be a CSV file, it could be a document such as a PDF, it could be another database, or it could be something from the cloud like Salesforce, for example, or even Fusion Cloud ERP. And once we get that data into Excel, we need to then run through that same upload and validate process. But more for apps does have some data expectations. So most of you will know this layout here, but what I'm talking about is we need to know the columns and the data fits together with the columns. For example, you might have information around the description, the item number, payment terms, transaction types, all of that. We need that data in our spreadsheet. And that's what those column headers are for. Then, as part of the manipulation, you can use the default row functionality. I'm not going to go too far into this, but the default row allows you to default data where it's missing. And that can be part of the manipulation stage for your data from your external system into more for apps. But it's really fitting it into this layout. Then, of course, when we come to the lines level, we've got, lines 12 onwards or 11 onwards, it's our data set. So we've got our header information and we've got our line information. And more for apps really likes it in a format like this. So for the one header, you've got the lines, again, header, lines, header, lines. This does allow obviously multiple documents within the one worksheet, but it likes this sort of format. You can look up the normalize and denormalize functionality as well after this presentation, and it allows you to take data that's denormalized, that is where the header repeats all the time, and denormalize it so it fits in a nice format like what you see on the screen. The other advantage of this format is it does make the upload process faster. So if we think of the steps involved, we need to extract the data. So this is what I talked about earlier on, and that's the data extraction from the various types of documents, data sources, etc. And ideally, you can do some data transformation at this stage. And I'll say that the more you can front load with your transformation, the better. So the more we can do up front at this stage, the easier it is later on. And then the next stage is, of course, transforming that data within your spreadsheet. So Excel's got some functionality, more for apps has got some functionality, and it's here that you really want to add the additional data that's missing. This is where you do your validation. This is where you put in your additional data manipulation, for example, using the default row functionality, or it could be downloading data from your EBS instance based on some of the data you've extracted. So for example, you might be given a whole bunch of customer information from your data extract, but you need to know some additional information. You could use the download selector to pull that data back in the customer template, and it will include that other information for you to evaluate, remove stuff you don't need, and then perform your upload. And it's this upload stage here that's the final step. And of course, if you've got your data and more for apps within the upload, the error handling, etc., will handle all of those sorts of issues for you. So the key part really, when you're looking at these external systems, is creating your own set of queries. Okay, and when you do that, you then need to take that data and get it into Excel and then perform your upload. So in the first example I've got here, I've actually just used something really quite simple that a lot of us already know about, and that's something called Toad or SQL Developer. And this is where you are getting IT input to help you extract the data. So in my example I've got here, we need to go and update some information for countries, Netherlands, France, and Belgium, around some of their party information. And within that, we get this query here, and this will give us this information. Now, this is where you do end up with technical resource to help you get this information. If it's a one-off sort of thing, this is really good use of your wizard with IT helping you out. So the wizard does what I call the hard work of actually getting the data back in there. The extraction part, you can have your IT team to help out. And the idea is that you'd extract it and then you get the data in a format and you can simply upload it. So if I just take this across here, you can see here I have my query. And in here, there's the results from my query. So I've just run that. I'm not going to run it again. It just takes time with the database. And I simply copy that data there. And then I just grab my spreadsheet. And so there's my customer wizard one over here. And with the spreadsheet itself, I just go and paste that data in. And I know that I need the data in these places here. And I'm going to do an update. And I've talked about using the default row functionality. I'm using the default row to do the update, but I'm also using it to set these profile terms. So this is one way that you can do that upload. That upload of data based on an external system. Now, that just happens to be from our EBS. That could be from something else. And you can actually do database links into your EBS instance as well in order to pull back that data if you can't connect to it directly. That's something that the DBAs can sort out for you. So I just do an upload all here. It's going to ask me to log in. And now this, once it finishes its initialization, it's going to do an upload here and set those terms against these customers. And it's a really simple and easy way to do this. Now, if this was something that I wanted to use often, and you'll come across to the right here, you'll see there that it's gone and defaulted that net 15 terms. Now, if this is something I wanted to do quite often, and I didn't want to have to rely on IT all the time, you can use that custom query functionality I talked about. So we could just do a download from Sheet. And here I just choose my custom query that I've built. It's called Customer Profile Terms Update. You'll see I've got a whole list of others that I've built out. And I just do a download. And then this will just bring back that same information directly into the Excel spreadsheet. So I didn't have to use the Toads or the SQL developers or the SQL Connects of the world in order to get that data back in. So that's just a quick example of custom query. We'll do a full session on that, on custom query at another time, but I just thought it's worth pointing out that if it's something that you use again, then that's a good option for you. So if we just go back to our presentation here, you know, when is it ideal to use that sort of programmatical way to get your data? It's when it's coming from another source where the key identifier, for example, purchase order number, customer, etc., is the same between the two systems. Okay, when the data isn't, you need to do a lot more manipulation. You might need to do VLOOKUPs, etc., to get those names to work. It's ideal when the data is coming from a query tool or a reporting tool. It could even be a folder form if you want to go back into Oracle and pull the data that way. You know, tools such as Toad SQL Developer. You can use the likes of Splash BI or EPM to pull that data as well. It's ideal where the data changes are easy to download from that other system. Sometimes you get systems that don't make it easy to get data out of. Well, then that's really not what this is for. And you don't need to use more for apps to build the data set. And you need to use more for apps to build the data set to change. So basically, that is where you need to upload the data using more for apps as your product. The key thing is, though, the more that you can make that data look like a layout that you can use with more for apps, you can move the columns around, etc. with more for apps, the easier that upload process is. It's not really designed for disparate data definitions. Like I was saying, it's ideal if you've got the same IDs, names, etc. in both systems. And as you saw, it works really nicely with custom query. But again, I wouldn't bother doing the custom query thing if it's a one-off thing. And this is just a quick brief of custom query itself. You take that SQL statement, you give it to responsibilities, and then as you saw, you add your filter criteria, where I just did a download from sheet, which is this bottom option here, but you can actually use a form as well in order to pull back your data. So just to recap on custom query, it only works if your data is an EBS or you've got a link to another database within your EBS instance. So if you're linked to another system and your DBAs are built data links, then you can use it. It's not the standard download. You do the download yourselves. So we support the technology, but not the SQL. You need this as a reusable download option for your end users. Okay. And with our standard queries, we do try and support so many different things, but we can't do everything. So it's ideal for those scenarios you have that we don't actually support with our standard download. What it's not designed for, it's really not designed for those super complex queries that take a long time to execute. It does have a filter limit of 5 filters. So that's the criteria you can put in, is up to 5 filters. And like I've said, when it's not stored on EBS, we recommend that when you build these queries, you also assign them to the responsibilities, and then it keeps a short list for the users and that particular wizard as well. So it means that if your customer people need these queries, but no one else does, well, there's no point in making them available to those other people. Okay, so it's just a bit of a security thing too. Earlier on, I talked about how I found some new stuff within Excel. Look, Power Query's been around a while. It was more that just Power Query had changed. So with Power Query now, it's giving you a more extensive range of options. So you can pull things from other sources. You can pull things from databases. You can pull things from pictures. It's provided as an add-in into Excel. Okay, and it's basically Power Query is there to support connections to a wide range of different data sources. It can even combine different data sources together. I've not gone to that level with my my presentation or my use cases that I've got for today. It's around that data transformation as well. So it doesn't just do the extraction. It actually has some functionality to clean, reshape, combine data, include sorting, filtering, etc. And I'll show that as well. But basically, it's the same thing. You execute your query into Excel and you copy the information and optionally do a download with more fraps of the selected to pull back even more data if you need it, and then execute the upload. And I won't show this part of it. This is very similar to what we saw with the SQL developer and the Toad side of things, is it's got easy data extraction from the database here, and it can pull the information back. It takes this info and it puts it into an Excel format. As I said, it's got the options for manipulation, so you can transform the data. You can add columns, for example. You can add a formula. It might just be the total amount of something. And it allows you to even transpose data, etc., to fit what you need as that extract. So as I said earlier, the more you can do earlier on, the better. So I've got an example here that I thought of that might have a real world applicable need. And this one here is from a utility company. And this is this thing that really caught my eye around the Power Query. It was the fact that it can read PDFs. And I thought that's something that would be really useful for our customer base. And so what this can do is it can actually take the data that you see highlighted here. And these are different cabinets that have different usages. This one here is just a cabinet where you pay per day. Here, this is electricity usage for 2 different cabinets that are associated with this address up here. And so what I thought is, well, what if we wanted to just on-bill this to a customer of ours? We wanted to charge them for the usage of these cabinets since it's, we're doing some work for them or something like that. And with Power Query, you can actually do that. It's actually quite interesting, and even for a lay person like me, as in I've never touched it before, I figured it out pretty quickly. And it was the idea is that it could pull the data out, give you a format like this, and give you a list of the steps that were done. You don't need to worry about this technical stuff. I'll show you this all shortly, and you'll see what I mean. But the idea is that it will take the data and it will give it to you in an Excel format that you can use. And what's really nice is that you can replace that PDF file and it'll just refresh this data here, and you can go and recreate your documents again. So if I go back into Excel here, just minimize that one. Here's my example with the AR invoice wizard. So the idea is that I'm going to create an invoice. I've used the defaulting. You can see I've got a default transaction date there. I've actually defaulted the company up the top here as well, but I've got the information there. And then I've got the line level information as well. Okay, and this is the information that would come from those cabinets. Over here in table 2, this is where we get the data back. So if I go and look at the PDF for that, where are we? There's the PDF we've got with our cabinets. This is the data that we're going to pull back. Now, if I just press, if I go back to my data over here, I just go refresh all, it's pulled that data straight out of that PDF document, okay? And that then populates over here, and I can take that information and I can simply upload that data. And so it saves me doing the data entry from the extract from that PDF, okay? And we can go through that load process here. And so that while that's doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that power invoice, if I can find it, with another one for the next month. And then you'll see how it just works really nicely for replacing that data. And you can see that successfully loaded that. So just based on that PDF. And of course, if I go and do the refresh again, now that I've gone and updated that invoice, so I've just saved over that PDF, that'll give us new cabinets. You see ABC, kilowatts, etc. And then I can just go and load that again. Now, it's really that simple to use. Now, as far as the whole development side, I'll just go through a little bit of that just to make life a little bit more understandable for you. I created a query here by launching the Power Query Editor. And you'll see the steps that you saw in the PowerPoint presentation. And basically, you're choosing your source. So you can see there's my source for my file. Then we do all sorts of things. We split data out. So we need to split out, for example, the unit here of days and kilowatts from the unit value. And we need to do the same sort of thing for the dollars and cents here for the unit price as well. And then we remove a whole bunch of columns as well because we don't need them. We even rename some columns here so they fit and make more sense to us. And we might change these dollars, for example, to cents. And it puts it there as a value. And then we remove a column as well. And it all just tidies the whole thing up. Okay. And this final one here, you can see it's just a formula to work the data out. So it's quite a powerful little tool. And it really didn't take me long to build this out. It does rely on a decent PDF. Obviously, if it's a scanned one, I don't think it'll do as good a job. But these ones that are, report extracts out of a system, I think it works well with. So just going back to our presentation here, it works with images as well. I did play with the images. I don't think it's quite as strong with images as it is with PDFs, and that's understandable because I think it actually looks into the different text values within the PDF. So it needs to be a clean document. It works really well with low transaction volumes. That doesn't mean it can't be a big document. I'd say that the number of documents is small because you have to then refresh each time you replace that document. It's not an AI image learning type thing. So once you've figured out one problem, unless you can fix it in that manipulation, it's not going to remember that issue, especially with the images. For that sort of thing, stick to other scanning options that are out there. It isn't, like I said, designed for high volume transactions, especially since it's working on the same file each time. Now, there could be ways around some of this. I just didn't figure out what they were. If you've got a Power Query expert, they'd probably know more than I do around that area. My hint with that is sometimes you can actually get your providers of this data to give you the data in an improved format as well. So the better format it is, or the nicer format it is, then the higher chances of you getting success when you go to extract data with the likes of the Power Query type functionality. Look, if you can even get the data in a simple CSV that just fits more for apps, that's even the best. That's next level. But I thought that showing how it can work with a PDF would be really useful. With that, no, I've flown through a few things. I'm happy to answer some questions if anyone's got any.
Yeah, we'll take a few minutes to do some Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in there or even raise your hand and we can talk it out. I do have a few though. So one of them is my Excel isn't showing that data and slash PDF option. Is there something I need to set for
Yeah,
that?
if you don't have that, you're not on the Office 365 subscription. So you're using a license that's paid for as a perpetual license. And in order to get that functionality, you do need to move to the 365. Um, Depending on when you paid for the perpetual, there's a chance that for some of you, you would have it, but in general, you won't. I noticed the functionality just recently in Excel, and we are on the 365 subscription. So if you're not seeing it, you might need to change your licensing.
And we have another one. It says, I have tried to link fields in the upload sheet and in the upload sheet, another tab. When we save the file, the formula disappears, so it loses the functionality.
Ooh, I don't know about that one. The formulas, if you're putting the formulas in the field level on, say, row 10, or sorry, below row 10, I'll just bring up an Excel spreadsheet again.
Yeah.
Um, Close out of this. If you're trying to put formulas in at this lower level here, it will potentially lose those formulas. Okay. Um, if you're putting them in the defaults up here, it won't lose those formulas. Okay, especially if you do a download of data, it'll push data down, and those formulas only ever exist in where you've entered data. Um, if you've got an example and it's obviously using a MorphWraps product, you can create a case and we'll take a look at it for you, or just email me and I'll take a look with you and figure out what it is.
Yeah, Dean, if you want to raise your hand, I can also like unmute you, but that's totally up to you. If you want to talk it out a little further. But in the meantime, you can think about it. We'll move on. What challenges might users face during the oh my gosh, I can't even say it, consolidation process. I can't even say it. And how can they overcome them?
That's really hard. So if you're getting the data back and it's still not quite right, I mean, that manipulation stage within the Power Query is number one. Number two, if that's not really cutting it, you can use things like Visual Basic, and that is slightly technical, and that comes with all the Microsoft Office products. Or you can use Office Script, which is the newer variant of that, which works really nicely with the likes of SharePoint, so you can share that change or that script with that. So there's no real easy answer apart from manual manipulation or figuring out if there's a way you can use VBA or Office Script.
Great. When will you be doing a custom query session, if at all?
I think next time we do these education sessions, I'll be pushing for that to be one of them, because there are quite a number of people that don't realize the power and the availability of that. It's really easy to set up and use, and it might only be a 15-minute session or a 20-minute session.
Yeah, nice and easy. Yeah. Well, I think that is it for our questions. Dean, yeah, we'll reach back out to you about that. Don't worry about, David, I'll give you his info and everything.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but before David makes his final remarks, I just want to thank everyone for joining and remind you that we will send you the recording. So just please keep an eye out for that. And again, we also encourage you to join our More for Apps community. It is packed with tons of resources and is a great tool for you and your team, your end users. They can access helpful information, download the latest releases, participate in discussion forums, and that's also where you can submit cases as well and manage your cases. But it's also just not for customers. The community is also open to partners and any prospective customers if you want to check it out. So if you haven't joined yet, please do so. But thank you again for joining. And I found this pretty interesting, David. I know I learned a lot. But do you have any last words?
Yeah, I mean, look, have a play with that PDF extract if you've got a use case for it. I found it pretty easy to use. If you've not used the custom query and you've got a use case, have a try of it. If you get stuck, you can create a case and one of us will help you with it and get you past that issue. But thanks everyone, and it's to me it's just great to see that Microsoft are doing work with Excel to make it that much better, and for us help us be able to get your data into our spreadsheet so you can upload it and make your lives a lot easier. But thanks a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody, or have a good one.